Hello, welcome all. Uh, Today we are going to discuss about implementation of Ajax in PHP. Okay, in the last session we have gone through a discussion of introduction of Ajax and uh, benefits of an Ajax and what is the main motivation of Ajax. These all theoretical aspects are been covered in my previous video. Those who are not gone through that, please go through that previous video. Now, in this session, we are going to discuss about how to implement this Ajax concept in PHP. For implementing Ajax concept in PHP, every developer need to follow 6 steps, okay, to proper configuring Ajax calls. Okay, first one is we need to have a clear view on input and output. That is nothing but defining input and output. And second one is we need to create an object for XML HTTP request in JavaScript. And third one is we need to define a handler which is nothing but used to track request object. Okay, and fourth one is we need to provide a connection approach for your XML HTTP object. And fifth one is we need to send the data from client machine to the server machine. And sixth one is on receiving the data we need to process the data and we need to display that response to the user. Okay, what what are the web pages or what are the files we are going to create for implementing Ajax is totally we created 2 files. First one I'm going to name it as simple.html, which contains a JavaScript where we create all these XML HTTP objects and handler functions and state changing comparisons. All these things are going to be maintained in simple.html. And next one, we need to send the data to the server, so we need to have some server language. Here we are going to deal with PHP. So in server I have written a file called simple server.php. So for implementing this Ajax calls, we are going to develop 2 pages. First one is simple.html and next one is simple server.php. And before going to implementation of these particular concepts, your system to be uh, embedded or your system is to be provided with PHP. And next, at least you need to have a Chrome browser. For installing PHP, you can use a package called a XAMPP package or WAMP package. Next one, we will start implementing that. What I want to think is, instead of explaining individually, what I'm supposed to do is simply I want to demonstrate this step by step and I will write the code parallelly. See here, what is the first step? Here, a first step is defining input and output. So here we are going to write a file name as simple.html. So I'm going to save it as save. I'm going to create a folder documents. In that folder, I want to create a folder called Ajax. In that, I am going to name it as simple.html. Okay, in this what I want to say, I want to write HTML code. So I have written HTML. In that it contains 2 parts. First one is a head and next one is body. Okay. Inside body I want to define an input. So input type is equal to button. I want to display message as value is equal to click. Okay, on click is equal to, I want to write my function. This is a function name what I want to put. Okay, this is about my input. Now I want to define an output. Output is nothing but a p tag. In that, to access that p tag, I am going to name that particular id as result. Okay, I don't want to display any information, so it is like this. So what you need to understand here, what I defined for input, I have defined a button. So what is an input? Simply it is nothing but an event to be raised to trigger a Ajax call. Whenever you click a button, it will raise a Ajax call. How you are going to raise an Ajax call? By using a function called on click. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear? And once you got the response from the server, it is going to be rendered onto the output area, which is nothing but paragraph tag, where all the result is maintained in my paragraph tag. Is it clear? Okay, first step is going to be cleared. Okay, before writing your entire code, we need to modularize the code by checking whether we are going to have a proper function call or not. For that, what I am going to write, function is a keyword. Function is a keyword. Okay, before writing function, we need to write script. In that, we need to write function. Function name is my fun. In that, just for checking purpose, I am writing message hello, hello, and save the file and test whether it is working or not, just for testing purpose. Is that Ajax? Open in Chrome. Sorry, open with Chrome. Okay, check, click. So hello has came. So what happened? I got an insurance that my function call is working properly. So my first step is completed. I have a clear input and I have a clear output. Okay. Coming to the second step, what I need to do? I need to create an object for XML HTTP request. So how to create an object? Here a variable I created, my request is equal to new XML HTTP request. So this is the way how to create an object for request. XML HTTP request. What is the problem for this XML HTTP request is there are some browsers which support XML HTTP requests. Coming to Internet Explorer, you need to create object in this fashion, like where my request is equal to new add2x object. If you are going to operate Ajax call in Internet Explorer, but current days, most of the browsers like Chrome, Safari, and Firefox all are going to support this way of creating XML HTTP requests. So to handle such type of situations, this object can be declared in try and catch. So catch. Here a weakly typed language, so I have defined. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, my object is going to be defined inside this try block. If I suppose to open my page in Internet Explorer, simply I will say alert your BROWS here DOSC not AJX. That itself message is going to be passed to the user if you implement it in try catch. Okay. Second step is also completed. What is the second step? We need to create an XML HTTP request object. We created this object and we handled with the try catch. Okay. Is it clear? And next thing, what is the third step? Third step is nothing but a specify handler for tracking a request object. What is this? As we are going to implement in asynchronous communication, we don't have any guarantee that the guarantee on response from the server. It may come at its completion time. Okay, before it arrived to the client, we need to define a function and we need to be in a position to handle the response. For that, before sending the data, we need to write a handler function. Okay. For that, for that, there is a property called on ready state change. on ready state change in XML HTTP request object. So I am going to write my request dot on ready state change is a property. For that property, I am going to write anonymous function. So it doesn't requires any function name. Okay. In this part, I need to write how to process the response from the server. I'm going to explain bit later. Why the reason is we need to complete all the 6 steps, and the last step is also going to deal with how to process the response. So while sixth step, I'm going to explain what is the thing to be there in this particular portion. Okay. What is the next step? Next step is we need to establish a connection. We need to establish a connection. So again, we need to have a function in same XML HTTP request object. The function name is open, and it is going to take three parameters. And it is going to take three parameters. First one is called method, and second one is called URL, and third one is going to be called whether it is going to be followed asynchronous communication or synchronous communication. So the first one is nothing but method. Here I am going to pass the information in get method, and here my URL will be http :// local host / I'm going to create a project called Ajax. In that, I'm going to write a function called a file called a simple server.php. And next one is boolean variable, that is nothing but to state it is true or false. Is it clear? See, here we are going to write open, which is nothing but method. Here my method is get, and a bit later we are going to define a file called simple server.php in our PHP server. There we are going to write what is the response to be generated from the server, and here true says that we are implementing asynchronous call. That is about fourth step. And coming to fifth step, we need to send the data. Okay, so as a basic thing, I am not interested to send any data. So here I am going to write send of null. Okay, my fifth step is also completed. And coming to the sixth step, see, this is nothing but receiving the response and show the response to the user. When we will receive the response, here in a handler function, we will get the response. Okay. To check whether we are going to get a proper response or not from the server, there is a property called ready state. There is a property called ready state. We need to continuously check the property called ready state. What that property says, if that particular ready state property is equal to 0, it says that request is not initialized. Request is not initialized. If the ready state is 1, it says that request is been set up. If the state is 2, it has been sent. If it is 3, the request is in process. If it is 4, the request is completed. So what we need to check? We need to check if my request dot ready state double equal to 4. What it means? We got a response and the request is completed. What we are supposed to do? We need to process the data. So where will be the data lies? The data lies under a property called my request dot response text. To handle that, I am going to write one more function that is going to be called process info. That is another function I am going to write. Simply I am passing that information like my request dot response text. Okay, so what I need to do? I need to write one more function. A function. What is the function name? Process info and here I am going to create a variable called responsc. P1sc. Okay, what I am going to do, I am going to get the object of p tag. How I am going to get document dot get element by id. What is the id? result dot inner html is equal to whatever the response I have been generated from the server. So my code is completed. 6 steps are been completed. Just to give a clarity, what is my first step? Here it is going to have a created in input. Okay, and here I am going to process the output. That is my first step. You can see defining input and output. What is the second step? I need to create a XML HTTP request object. Second step is also completed. What is the third step? Third step is nothing but defining handler function, which can be achieved by using a property called onReadyStateChange. What is the fourth step? Opening the connection or establishing the connection to the server. It is done with 3 parameters. What is the method name? What is the URL you are going to pass? And whether you are going to do in synchronous manner or asynchronous manner. And what is the fifth step? Sending the data. As it is a basic example, here I am going to send nothing. So it is going to be null. Okay. And what is the sixth step? We need to process. When you are supposed to process, when the ready state property is equal to 4, then you have been called a function, and that function is going to be defined like this. It is going to be retrieving your paragraph tag and assigning the response. Is it completed? Okay. Next, the thing is we are going to create a server. As I said, for implementation we require 2 files. First file is completed and next one is simple server. Here it should be written under PHP. PHP. Okay. Simple. Here I am going to message from server. Server. Question mark PHP. Okay, during for security purposes, Chrome is not accepting any external server calls without HTTP. Yes, here we are going to use HTTP only. See, here we are going to use HTTP only. For that, we are going to break down that security by placing header. We need to set a property called access hyphen control hyphen allow hyphen origin states that you should allow any URL calls. Okay, and simply save this file in htdocs. Okay, XAMPP htdocs. We are going to create a folder called Ajax. In that, what is the file name? We said simple Okay. Now check whether simple server.php is working or not. Okay. So here I'm going to write Ajax slash simple server.php. Okay. Message from server is working fine. Very good. Now test whether our Ajax is working properly or not. See here what I did. Click. See, we got a message from server. What you people should understand, I'm going to refresh the thing. Generally, what happens whenever you are going to try to observe this URL, what happens whenever I click, that URL is going to change and the message is sent to the server and it should come back from the server. Whereas in this Ajax concept, what happened at backend, the data is going to be sent to the server and it is being processed in the same page itself. That's what we are going to see. So Ajax is nothing but asynchronous JavaScript and XML, which will process the data from backend, and only the component what you are interested, that component is going to be refreshed without refreshing your entire web page. See here, simple.ajax is not changing. Is it clear? Thank you. In the next session, we will send the data to the server. Okay, here in this session, what we done only with null property. See here, we are not sending any data. In the next session, we will send the data from client machine to the server machine. Thank you.